Today on Studio A, we're going to take a look at how last year's flood is still impacting the community, and we're going to take a look at how a spike in population has increased crime in San Marcos. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Nina Durant, and I'm joined by PJ Theberge, Imani Forrest, Kevin Quintero, and Jonathan Borazjani. So we're coming up on the one-year anniversary of the Memorial Day floods, and Capes Dam here in San Marcos, I heard, is closing down. So Kevin, can you give us a little bit more about that?
Right, the government actually decided to close it down because it was damaged by the flood. It's still beautiful, and all the residents like me and people living nearby, we all still enjoy the river, the dam, everything around that area is still, beautiful. But of course, the city says it's a liability, so they're trying to remove it. And I actually made a story on it, so you should take a look.
All right, let's watch.
The San Marcos City Council voted to remove Capes Dam, a historic, controversial part of the San Marcos River. Heavy flooding damaged the dam last May, and the city says it would be cost prohibitive to replace it. Ben Cavanley is a San Marcos resident and owner of the Olympic Outdoor Center. He says removing the dam could lower the water levels in the area and negatively affect his business.
This is the side of the river that we use. This is the safe side. This is the way that every guidebook says to go. This is the way that every outfitter tells you to go. This is the way that the Texas Water Safari paddlers go. So this is the side that we need. This is the side that we depend on for our business.
Not only is this affecting local businesses, it's also affecting nearby residents of Capes Dam.
I'm really sad that they're closing down the dam because I've only lived here for a little while, and so it was pretty short-lived, but it was a beautiful spot, and I hope that there's something else like it here in San Marcos, and I'm really going to miss it.
We attempted to speak with city officials, but they did not return our calls. Residents have started a petition opposing the removal of the dam. They need 4,000 signatures before June 10th for the issue to make the November ballot.
So residents seem really passionate about this dam. Where can they go to sign this petition?
Right, you could go and sign a petition at the Olympic Outdoor Center. It's a rental place for recreational river activities.
Okay, so if you do go sign the dam and it doesn't, go sign the petition and it doesn't unfortunately do anything, can you actually go see the dam? Where is it located?
Yeah, it's actually right behind the Woods Apartments off of 35, exit 205.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right there.
So you mentioned in your story that the government says it's cost prohibitive to maybe rebuild the dam or renovate the dam, but you're going to have to spend money to tear it down. So is there actually a big gap between those numbers?
Right. Well, yeah, to tear it down, it would cost about $35,000, and to rebuild the dam, it probably cost $1 million.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Wow, well, thanks for that story, Kevin. So I know, Imani, your story also deals with the floods last year, and you got to talk to a family about it. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, well, I went out to Wimberley just to kind of see how the recovery is going there. It was a little bit worse affected than San Marcos, even though we all got a lot of damage. And I spoke to the Kimmons family. They were just getting their house rebuilt, and luckily the day I went to interview them was the last day of construction, so they got to move in that day, and it was actually a really rewarding experience.
Great, well, let's take a look.
Just over a year ago, the cities of San Marcos and Wimberley were subjected to 2 record-breaking floods in the span of 1 month. The Blanco River that runs through both cities rose 35 feet in 3 hours. The flood left $30 million worth of destruction in its wake and killed 11 people, including 3 children. Ken and Donna Kimmons' home was swept away by the floodwaters that were so high it broke the local record, which had stood since 1929.
I came, I told her again, I said, honey, something bad's wrong. I said, I'm hearing that creek through that storm, And so I got my flashlight and we looked outside, and that creek was already up to the deck. It was already coming to the deck at that point there.
While many were left to figure out the recovery of their homes on their own, the Kimmons had a little help from the nomads, or people they'll only refer to as their special angels.
The framework was here, those 2x4s were here, and we did everything else. The walls, the cabinets, the floors, the painting, the flooring, the grouting, the nailing, the painting, and cabinet countertops. Appliances, we put in all the appliances. So we did the electricity, we did the plumbing, we've done all the carpentry work.
Some Wimberley residents feel there's no real way to repair if the city's structures are unsafe and don't hold.
Took the guardrails down at the end of the street, twisted all the guardrails, and everybody on the street got flooded.
And it tore our fence all up. We repaired it ourselves.
Yeah, the whole fence, all these slats of the fence were all up and down the street.
the rainy season looming here in Central Texas, the city of Wimberley urges all residents to pay close attention to severe weather forecasts. Also, they want everyone to exercise extreme caution when in flood conditions. And always remember, turn around, don't drown.
It's great to see that the city's recovering. So what did you take away from meeting the Kimmons family and actually going to Wimberley and seeing all that?
Well, I actually just took away the way to keep a brave face and a positive attitude even when, your home has been swept away. They not only helped the rest of the community, but everybody in the community helped them. And so it was really great to see, even when everything seems to be gone and everything seems to be going wrong, that you can still find that, goodness in yourself.
Wow, their home was just swept away. How long have they been out of their house?
They were actually out of their house for a little bit over 6 months. So they were still on that property. Someone let them use a trailer. So they assisted with the rebuilding of it and everything. But yeah, it took a good 6 months to get something back there.
Were they able to salvage anything from their house?
Unfortunately, not from the actual home. It was all gone and swept away, I'm sorry. But they did get to salvage their deck. It was only about 100 yards out and not very damaged. They had a few pieces here and there, but they got a few members of the community to bring it back and reattach it and really make sure it was still structurally sound. So they still have that little piece of home.
Well, thanks for sharing that story, Imani. So up next on Studio A, we see how the growth of San Marcos is putting some residents and authorities on alert.
Meet up with friends at the Student Recreation Center to take part in a variety of activities. You can sign up for specialty classes such as yoga, rent equipment using your student ID, or bring your own to challenge your friends to a game of racquetball or a battle of ping pong. Rain or shine, it's always game time. For more information, go to campusrecreation.txstate.edu. What will you do today?
Welcome back. So just last weekend, I had gotten an email from my apartment complex saying that there had been 55 car burglaries this month alone. So I know that the car burglaries are linked to a shooting of a police officer in Austin. Jonathan, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I sure can. In Austin, this past Sunday, Darren Martin shot and wounded an Austin police officer. The police officer returned fire and killed him. After he died, they looked through his things, and what they found was around half of the 55 items that had been stolen, so the crime kind of resolved itself.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at your story.
For the last 3 years, San Marcos has been one of the fastest growing cities in America. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates that San Marcos's population grew by 5% from 2014 to 2015. As the city has grown, some residents have noticed more crime.
When I go to the store, you got these kind of sketchy people trying to sell you these things that look like that just been stolen from somewhere.
Brandon Knus had a violent incident happen at his apartment complex a few months back.
There was a shooting in our complex, which never happened before, so we're all on alert.
A search of the San Marcos Police Department database shows the vast majority of reports are for traffic violations, with more than 1,000 a month. Next are disturbances.
However, the database shows that all levels of crime has doubled since March of 2015.
Officer Sue Taylor with University Police Department Crime Prevention Unit says the student population here also makes the city a desirable target for crime.
This is just a shopping center for theft and burglary of vehicles.
Taylor says that everyone should make sure to take measures to be safe, such as locking your doors and being aware of your surroundings. Also, Don't leave your electronics unattended.
Well, thanks for that story, Jonathan. It seems like we should all be more cautious. So what kind of crimes does UPD generally deal with?
UPD here at Texas State generally deals with theft from the parking garages and the parking lots. So that's mainly what we're seeing.
So it's a lot of vehicles, and I feel like I can most certainly relate to that because I was parked once about a couple of months ago back behind the gas station that's across from Strand. What is it, Quick Check? And as I arrived, it became obvious that my car had been tampered with. Mirror was broken off and there was dent marks in the door and things like that. And I guess maybe the person was unsuccessful. I don't know if maybe I walked up and scared them off or something. So it's personal to me, and I can sort of tell that through your story that maybe this is personal to you. So I'm curious, has something like this happened to you as well?
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. I know it's a violating feeling, and I felt violated a couple weeks ago. I get in my car to go to work at 8 a.m. and I see everything has been messed around. My glove compartment is empty and a pair of Ray-Bans gone.
Oh no. Do you think it's mostly the students who are doing these crimes, or do you think it's the locals?
Well, after talking to Sue Taylor, who's an officer here at Texas State, what I found was it's actually usually people that aren't in San Marcos. They'll hit UTSA in San Antonio, Texas State here in San Marcos, and then they'll go up to Austin and hit UT because there's so many cars, so many students, so many electronics.
Well, thanks for doing that story, Jonathan. Coming up next here on Studio A, there's some big changes coming to the LBJ Student Center. But what do those changes mean for your tuition? PJ has the story when we come back.
Bobcat Bobbies are here for you when you need them most. If you feel threatened or are temporarily disabled, call a Bobcat Bobby at 512-245-SAFE.
So PJ, I know we just talked about how San Marcos is growing, which means the university is growing as well. So students just voted in favor of expanding the LBJ Student Center. Did you take part in that vote?
Unfortunately, I didn't, but I can say for sure that I would have voted affirmatively. After doing some of the research and some of the things that you'll see in the story in a moment, I feel like the nominal increase in fees is really worth some of the things that we'll be getting out of it. So,
great. Well, let's take a look.
The LBJ Student Center is getting a new look. Thanks to an affirmative vote on a referendum by 68% of the students who voted, the Student Center is set to undergo major renovations in the coming years. Studio A sat down with Jack Raymond to learn what's in store.
On average, we're turning away about 25 requests a month for the ballroom, which if we took 25 requests a month, that would fill up another ballroom.
Aside from the new ballroom, the changes also include several new meeting spaces, newer and healthier food options, and a multicultural lounge area. While these changes seem like they'll lead to a major tuition hike, Raymond says that's just not the case. Students will only see a $36 bump in their student center fee by the fall of 2018. Even though the referendum passed with nearly 70% of the vote, not all students feel as though they'll be getting their money's worth once they start to see the changes here at LBJ.
$36 may not seem a lot, but in the long run it adds up at the end, and I just don't like that at all.
But Jack Raymond feels like these expansions to the building are necessary to make expansions to other areas and programs at Texas State take place. The Student Center expansion is set to begin in the fall of 2018.
So PJ, I saw this referendum passed with a majority vote, but the student that you interviewed was against it. What was the feel you got when you were doing this story?
Yeah, it was kind of strange. You expected, since the referendum passed with a nearly 70% vote, you sort of expected to see that reflected with the people that I interviewed, but it felt a little more 50-50, and it makes you wonder what could have maybe happened if more students had voted. Maybe we wouldn't be seeing this expansion.
All right.
So PJ, is there any other additional reasons why they decided to do it now?
Yeah, one of the big reasons that Jack Raymond really stressed to me, he's the director of the Student Center whom you saw in the story, he wanted to point out that other universities in Texas, such as UT, U of H, North Texas, A&M, these schools have a much higher per square foot per student ratio. So they're sitting around 8 square feet per student, and that's at their student center, whereas we're sitting at 5.4. When the Student Center was built back in '98, we only had 21,000 students enrolled, but now we're up to 38,000. It's nearly double, but our Student Center is still the same size. So you're losing that square footage because of the increased enrollment.
All right. So I have a question about the ballroom. It was kind of a point in your story, and I want to know why it needs to get bigger. Like, is there anything to that?
Sure, yeah. As Jack was pointing out in the story, that they turn away 25 requests for the ballroom per month, right? Really what that means and how that sort of comes about is that they are renting out this ballroom. It's totally booked for the entire semester within the first 2.5 to 3 weeks of the semester. So you're seeing a very, very, very high demand for one room essentially, and so the idea is to build a second one to try to sort of meet that demand.
Great. Well, thanks PJ for that story, and thank you to all my reporters for bringing some great stories, and thank you guys for watching. Studio A will return April 22nd, and until then, subscribe to our YouTube channel. For PJ Theberge, Imani Forrest, Kevin Quintero, and Jonathan Borazjani, I'm Nina Durant. Thanks for watching.